Days of Our Lives may be preparing to unleash one of the most explosive emotional twists of the year, because Joy Wesley is officially coming back to Salem, and this return feels anything but random. For longtime viewers, this is the kind of comeback that immediately raises alarms. When a character disappears with a secret this big and then suddenly reappears just as another couple seems stable, it almost never means closure. It means chaos. And in this case, it could mean a devastating truth that blows apart Alex and Stephanie's future just when they think they've finally made it through the storm. Because let's not forget, Joy didn't leave Salem with a harmless misunderstanding. She left with a lie. A calculated one. She told Alex and Stephanie there was no pregnancy scare, no danger, no complication waiting in the shadows. But viewers saw the real test results. Joy was pregnant. And now she's coming back. So the big question is no longer whether Joy has a secret. The question is, why is she choosing now to reveal it? And that's where this storyline starts getting really interesting. The most dangerous part of Joy's return isn't simply that she's coming back to Salem. It's when she's coming back. Timing is everything in soap storytelling, and this timing feels almost surgically destructive. If Joy had truly wanted honesty from the beginning, there were multiple moments when she could have told Alex the truth. She could have told him the moment she got the real pregnancy results. She could have come clean before Alex and Stephanie rebuilt their bond. She could have spoken up before their relationship deepened into something stronger, more serious, and far more emotionally difficult to disrupt. But she didn't. She chose silence. And that silence is what transforms this from a simple baby reveal into something far more explosive. Because now the issue isn't just pregnancy. It's concealment. It's intention. It's the emotional calculation behind letting two people move forward while sitting on a truth that had the power to change all of their choices. That's what makes Joy's return feel like a timed detonation rather than an ordinary comeback. In soaps, a secret is never static. It grows. It expands. It becomes heavier the longer it's buried. And the longer people build their lives around a false belief, the more devastating the correction becomes when the truth finally surfaces. Alex and Stephanie didn't just move on casually. They rebuilt trust. They recommitted emotionally. They allowed themselves to believe the Joy chapter was over and that the pregnancy scare was nothing more than a brief moment of panic. But if Joy has been carrying Alex's child this entire time, then that closed chapter was never closed at all. It was quietly evolving off-screen while Alex and Stephanie were living inside a version of reality that was incomplete. And that changes the emotional meaning of everything that came after. Every decision Alex made, every step Stephanie took toward a future with him, every promise they made under the assumption that there was no child, no hidden bond, no unfinished connection waiting to come back and claim space in their lives. That is why Joy's return is so dangerous. She isn't just bringing information back to Salem. She's bringing back a truth powerful enough to destabilize a marriage, rewrite loyalties, reopen old wounds, and force every character involved to reevaluate what the last several months actually meant. That's not a comeback. That's a bomb with a delayed fuse finally reaching its target. Now this is where the story gets layered, because Joy's lie can be interpreted in more than one way, and that ambiguity is exactly what makes her return so compelling. On the more sympathetic side, you can absolutely argue that Joy may have believed she was doing the right thing. Maybe she looked at Alex and Stephanie, saw that their connection was unfinished, and realized that telling the truth would instantly destroy any chance they had of finding their way back to each other. Maybe Joy understood that Alex's heart was divided, or maybe not fully hers to begin with, and instead of forcing him into a life-changing responsibility at the exact moment he was emotionally torn, she chose to step aside. If that's what happened, then Joy's silence becomes tragic rather than malicious. It becomes the decision of a woman who was hurt, conflicted, and trying to preserve some sense of dignity. Instead of fighting to keep Alex through a pregnancy reveal, she may have decided to disappear quietly and deal with the consequences alone. That kind of choice could come from heartbreak, pride, fear, or even love. And if Days wants viewers to feel torn, that's the version of Joy they may lean into. Not a schemer, but a woman who convinced herself that sacrificing the truth was the least destructive option. But there's another reading of this story, and it's much more unsettling. What if Joy didn't stay silent because she was protecting anyone? What if she stayed silent because keeping the truth gave her control? Because whether she intended it or not, that is exactly what happened. By withholding the pregnancy, Joy became the sole gatekeeper of life-altering information. She got to decide when Alex would find out. She got to decide how long Stephanie would remain in the dark. She got to determine the exact moment this truth would enter Salem and blow up the lives of everyone involved. That's an extraordinary amount of emotional power. And power changes how we see a character. Because once someone knowingly sits on a truth this big, it's no longer just about pain. It becomes about authorship. Joy is not merely surviving the consequences, she is controlling the timing of them. She is shaping the conditions under which Alex's world may collapse. And even if she tells herself she had good reasons, the outcome is still the same. She allowed other people to build a future on incomplete information. That doesn't automatically make her evil, but it does make her dangerous. And that's why Joy could become such a strong wildcard in this storyline. She doesn't fit neatly into the role of victim, and she doesn't fit neatly into the role of villain either. She may be something more complicated, someone whose pain led her into morally messy choices, someone who believed she was protecting herself or others, but whose silence now carries consequences she can no longer contain. That kind of character is the perfect storm for a soap like Days of Our Lives. Because viewers won't just react to what Joy did, they'll debate why she did it. Was she being selfless? Was she being strategic? Was she emotionally overwhelmed? Or did some part of her always know that one day she would come back holding a truth no one could ignore? That uncertainty is what gives the story its real tension. Because if Joy herself is emotionally conflicted, then her next move becomes impossible to predict. And unpredictable characters are often the most dangerous ones in Salem. For Alex, this isn't the kind of revelation that lands as a single emotional blow and then fades. This is the kind of truth that can fracture a person from the inside out. If Joy returns and confirms that the child is his, Alex won't just be dealing with surprise. He'll be dealing with the terrifying realization that a major part of his life has already happened without him even knowing it was his to live. And that's what makes this such a brutal twist. This isn't just about discovering he's a father. It's about discovering he may have already missed the pregnancy, the preparation, the fear, the milestones, the birth, maybe even the first chapters of his child's existence. That kind of loss hits differently, because it creates a very specific kind of pain, the pain of stolen time. Alex may not have made the choice to walk away. He may not have rejected responsibility. He may not have knowingly abandoned Joy or the baby. But once the truth comes out, logic won't erase the emotional damage. He may still feel like he failed in a role he never got the chance to step into. He may still replay every moment, wondering how different things would be if he had known sooner. And that is where the psychological fallout really begins. Because once the shock wears off, the questions start. Would he have gone with Joy if he'd known the truth? Would he have chosen differently where Stephanie was concerned? Would he have tried to co-parent from the beginning? Would he have been in the room for the birth? Would he have bonded with the child already? And perhaps the most painful question of all. What kind of father am I, if my child has existed this long without me? That question can destroy a person emotionally, even if the circumstances weren't their fault. And the tragedy is that Alex can't fix the past. He can't recover the months he didn't know about. He can't go back and be present for the moments that are already gone. All he can do is face the truth in the present, and the present may be emotionally impossible to navigate. Because Alex's reaction won't be simple. He may feel deep anger toward Joy for taking the choice away from him. He may feel crushing guilt over the child he wasn't there for. He may feel protective the moment fatherhood becomes real. He may feel defensive toward Stephanie because he didn't know, and yet still understand why this changes everything for her. And he may feel completely torn between the life he has built and the life that has suddenly appeared demanding recognition. That is not ordinary baby drama. That is identity collapse. Because Alex's sense of who he is, as a husband, as a partner, as a man, as a potential father, could all be thrown into question at once. One truth from Joy has the power to split his life into two separate versions. The version he thought he was living, and the version that was actually unfolding behind his back. And when a character realizes those two versions are not the same, certainty disappears. That's why this twist has real emotional power. It doesn't just create conflict. It forces Alex to confront the possibility that the most important transformation of his life happened in secret. And now he has to catch up emotionally while everyone around him is already falling apart. That's the real nightmare, not just learning the truth, but learning it far too late. As massive as this twist is for Alex, Stephanie may be the one who suffers the deepest emotional damage, not because she did anything wrong, but because she's standing in the blast zone of a secret she never created. This is the kind of storyline that soap operas love because it targets something extremely fragile: newlywed security. Stephanie and Alex aren't just dating. They aren't casually rebuilding. They've made a commitment, they've tried to stabilize, and they're probably telling themselves they've earned a season of peace after all the chaos. But if Joy walks back into Salem carrying proof that Alex has a child, that peace is gone instantly. And not in a temporary argument kind of way. In a permanent, structural way. Because here's the cruel part. Stephanie can be emotionally intelligent, compassionate, and rational, and still feel demolished. She can tell herself, Alex didn't know. She can tell herself, the baby is innocent. She can even tell herself, this isn't cheating, this isn't betrayal. And none of those truths will stop the emotional injury. Because the damage isn't only about what Alex did. It's about what this reality does to Stephanie. It forces her into one of the most painful positions in soap storytelling. Loving someone whose past doesn't stay in the past. It moves in, takes a seat at the table, and starts demanding attention every day. And unlike many problems, this one has no clean ending. You don't resolve a child. You adjust your life around them forever. And that's where Stephanie's heartbreak begins. Because once the baby exists in the open, Stephanie's marriage will no longer be just about the two of them. It becomes about schedules, priorities, boundaries, co-parenting decisions, unexpected emergencies, financial support, emotional loyalty, and the constant presence of a third person in the marriage. Not romantically, but emotionally. And that third person is Joy. Even if Alex is completely devoted to Stephanie, Joy's existence in this situation becomes unavoidable. There will be conversations Stephanie never wanted to hear. There will be moments she didn't plan to share. There will be events where she has to sit in the same room and pretend she's okay. There will be times when Alex has to choose where he goes first, his wife, or his child. And even when Alex chooses correctly, the fact that the choice exists is itself a wound. Stephanie may not blame Alex logically, but emotionally, she may still experience this as a kind of theft. Because she didn't sign up for a marriage that begins with a hidden child revelation. She didn't choose to build trust on incomplete information. And she didn't agree to a future where her relationship constantly feels like it has a shadow attached to it. That's what makes this tragic. No one in the present may be guilty, but the marriage still takes a hit. And once that happens, Stephanie may start spiraling into the most dangerous internal question of all. If this much could be hidden, what else don't I know? That doubt is poison in a soap marriage. And it spreads fast. This is the mystery that could define the entire storyline, not the baby itself, but the timing. Why now? Because Joy has had months to come clean. If the pregnancy was real back then, that means time has passed, enough time for a life to change off-screen. So Joy choosing to return now suggests one of two things. Either something has shifted inside her, or something has shifted around her. Let's start with the most human explanation: guilt. It's possible Joy reached a breaking point. Maybe she watched from a distance as Alex moved on, got married, and seemed genuinely happy, and the lie suddenly became unbearable. Because guilt doesn't always hit immediately. Sometimes it hits when you realize the other person truly believes the story you told them. If Alex is living in peace, that peace is built on Joy's silence. And Joy may finally be realizing that silence has a cost. But days rarely takes the simplest route when bigger drama is available. So here's where the story can get more urgent. What if Joy isn't returning because she wants to, but because she has to? A baby changes everything, and babies bring complications that can't always be hidden. What if the child has a medical issue and Joy needs information from Alex's family history? What if Joy needs resources, support, or legal acknowledgement? What if someone else discovered the truth? A friend, a doctor, a paperwork trail. And now Joy is being pressured to confess. What if the child is at the stage where questions start forming, and Joy can no longer justify keeping the truth buried? Or here's a darker possibility. What if Joy comes back because she realizes the longer she waits, the more unforgivable it becomes, and she's trying to control the narrative before the truth leaks in the worst possible way? Because if Joy doesn't deliver the truth herself, it could come out through someone else, and that would be a total disaster. So her return could be strategic. Not in a cartoon villain way, but in a self-protection way. She may be thinking, if this is going to explode, I want to be the one holding the match. I want to be the one telling my side before Salem tells it for me. And each version of this motivation changes how viewers interpret her. If Joy returns out of guilt, she's more sympathetic, a flawed person trying to make things right. If she returns out of necessity, she's desperate, and desperation can push people into messy choices. If she returns because she's cornered, she becomes unpredictable, and unpredictability is where Day's characters become truly dangerous. And honestly, the best version of this storyline might be one where Joy is a mix of all three. Guilty, but also scared. Honest, but also strategic. Regretful, but also determined not to lose control. That's where real soap tension lives. So yes, Joy Wesley is back. But this doesn't feel like a casual comeback. It feels like Days is setting up a storyline designed to permanently rearrange the emotional map of Salem. Because if Joy returns carrying proof that Alex has a child, then Alex and Stephanie's marriage isn't just facing an obstacle. It's facing a new reality. A hidden pregnancy that rewrites the past. A lost timeline that can never be repaired. A child who becomes a permanent connection. And a marriage that gets tested before it's even had the chance to breathe. And the most terrifying part? Even if Alex and Stephanie still love each other, love doesn't automatically protect a relationship from resentment, insecurity, and emotional exhaustion. Especially when a third person's secret forces itself into the center of the marriage. So the real danger isn't only that Joy comes back. It's what her return forces everyone else to become. Does Alex become a man torn in half, husband on one side, father on the other? Does Stephanie become the kind of woman who smiles in public but breaks in private? Does Joy become a messy truth teller, or a strategist who brings chaos wherever she goes? Now I want to hear your take. Is Joy returning because guilt finally crushed her? Because the baby's situation is urgent? Or because this secret is about to come out with or without her, and she's racing to control the explosion? Drop your prediction. Because once Joy steps back into Salem, nothing stays the same.